Hi, this is Mismatched Socks, and today I want to talk about how Ornn works.
Hey, you. Go to the store.
Ornn is a 5-cost Elderwood Vanguard Blacksmith that works as a CC tank. He is slightly less tanky compared to Aatrox and Sidrani, and his CC is slightly weaker as well. You mostly play him for the Blacksmith ability, which is his ability to generate items every few rounds. A 1-star Ornn generates an artifact item every 4 rounds, and a 2-star Ornn generates an item every 3 rounds. You can have multiple Ornns in play that all have their own progress track. If you combine multiple Ornns, each Ornn will add to the total progress. This is a little bit buggy right now when the sum of the progress is 3 or more. Usually, he's not tanky enough to be solo frontlined. At 1-star, I like to 2nd or 3rd line him, and at 2-star, you can put him frontline next to your primary tank. At the moment, you can also generate Ornn stacks during the PvE rounds, so it's often a good idea to play multiple Ornns during the PvE rounds to farm artifacts. Okay, let's also go over his ability real quick. An elemental form behind the farthest enemy to travel towards him, slowing the attack speed down, kind of like old Ezreal, by 50% for 3 seconds and dealing 150 magic damage. And the elemental hits Ornn. Ornn will headbutt the elemental, directing to, I think, the furthest enemy, and then stunning everyone hit by 1.5 seconds. So the important part to know is that Ornn actually has to be alive for the elemental to run into him in order for Ornn to get value. Often, like a really, really good way to use Ornn is to actually frontline him with GA. What's going to happen is that the Ram is going to run to Ornn. Ornn is actually going to die before the Ram runs to him, and he'll often res right when the Ram hits him, and he'll hit a button right off the bat. I think at some point there was either a bug or like a glitch where Ornn can hit the Ram mid GA. I'm not sure if that's in the game anymore, so I mean, take that with a grain of salt. I think the strongest item for Ornn right now is definitely GA. Right now, I think Ornn's super, super powerful if you get him anytime during stage 4. So if you get him anytime between Wolves to Raptors, you almost always just play him for at least 4 rounds. Now, things get a lot dicier after Raptors. Because he needs to be alive for 4 rounds to make the impact. And often after Raptors, every stage and every fight and every combat strength matters. So he's not as strong after Raptors. Next, I'll talk about Ornn's unique items. Note that you can only put 1 unique artifact item per champion. So the item Gold Collector. Gold Collector gives you AD and crit, and allows the user to instantly kill enemies they damage who are below 10% health. Executions grant 1 gold. Upon first glance, you think that this item goes on your main carry, but the item actually doesn't do enough damage compared to an item like Infinity Edge. So this often goes on your secondary carries like Tryndamere, Samira, and Morgana. You can always put this on a frontline AoE tank as well, like Sidrani, Aatrox, Swain, and Ornn, as their AoE often can grant executes. In a pinch, you can always put this item on Ornn, because Ornn's ult hits units twice in the AoE, which allows you 2 chances of Gold Collector. Just make sure to second line him so he doesn't ult too early before units have taken damage yet. It's also really strong with items like Morello and Sunfire, as each tech can proc Gold Collector. Obsidian Cleaver. Obsidian Cleaver gives you HP, AD, and the wearer attacks and spells shred armor and MR for a few seconds. Note that the spells work as well, so it's really strong on secondary AoE units such as Samira, Morgana, Xayah, and Kayle, as they can provide AoE shred, and they can use it as well. Try to position your carry and your Obsidian Cleaver holder to attack the same unit at the start of combat. And it's not great on main carries, for the same reason Gold Collector is not good on main carries. The stats on this item is just not strong enough. And then finally, in a pinch, you can always also put it on frontline tanks such as Cho'Gath, Sidrani, and Ornn, as their AoE can proc Obsidian Cleaver as well. The next item is Randuin Sanctum. It gives HP, armor, and MR, and all units surrounding it at the start of combat gets 40 armor and MR, not including the wearer. It's best on keepers or units already holding ore items, as they tend to be surrounded by units already. In my opinion, for most comps, you should not compromise your positioning to get 40 armor and MR. In general, I would keep your natural positioning and put this item on a unit that's already touching the most amount of units. The next item is Rocket Propel Fist. This item gives you HP, mana, and armor, and similar to old Blitzcrank, at the start of combat, the wearer grabs the farthest unit and pulls them into melee range, stunning them for 1.5 seconds. Nearby allies will attack the pulled unit. In general, you want to give this to your supporting units such as Janna or Lulu. Basically, any unit that you can position on the left side and right side to pull the correct enemy unit. This item is also very powerful with a Zephyr on your team, as if your opponent tries to protect their carry by putting it second from the corner, you can Zephyr the corner unit and pull the enemy carry with a Zephyr plus Rocket Propel Fist. I also don't recommend putting Rocket Propel Fist on any assassin unit, because the assassin unit will grab mid-jump. It's a little bit weird where the enemy unit ends up, but usually it ends up somewhere between the second to the third and second to and third backline for the enemy team. So I would not recommend it. The next item, Zonia's Paradox, gives you AP, armor, and MR. And the first instance of damage that would reduce the wearer below 40% is prevented, and the wearer is untargetable and immune to 2.5 seconds. Important note that the damage is completely prevented. As an example, if the enemy ASOL will damage our Kale from 100% to 30% HP, Kale will proc Zonius at 100% HP, and the entire damage is prevented. Often, it's a stronger version of GA. Any GA user would also be great with Zonias, such as Kale, Olaf, and Zillium. Note that it does not put the unit into stasis, so your unit will actually keep attacking and casting their spells. This is not the same Zonias as the League of Legends Zonias, which will put you into stasis and you cannot move. Your unit will keep attacking and casting spells. The next item is Death's Defiance. Death's Defiance gives you AD, attack speed, and armor, and 60% of the damage taken is dealt over 5 seconds as non-lethal damage. This allows most units to survive quite a bit longer, so this item is really good on your main carries, such as Kale, Xayah, Olaf, as an alternative to GA. It's also pretty good on secondary carries as well. It's also really strong on solo frontline tanks, as they will die before the backloaded damage procs. Units like Sejuani, Aatrox, and Cho'Gath are really good with it. Finally, there's a special combo of Death Defiance plus Time's Resolve, which turns all damage taken into multiple instances of Time Resolve, allowing you to stack up Time's Resolve very rapidly. Okay, the next item is Malazane. It gives you AD, attack speed, and mana, and after the wearer casts a spell, they restore 100 mana over 8 seconds. This is really good on units that get their first cast very quickly with a very impactful ult, such as Zillion and Azir. It's also good on units that cast their spell very quickly and want to keep casting, such as Talon and Kindred. In this case, Malazane will let those units cast multiple times. Finally, it works with Enlightened, so this synergy is very powerful on units like Talon and Morgana. That's why Malazane lets Talon ult every auto with 4 Enlightened. Go auto, then ult, then auto, then ult with Malazane. The next item is Eternal Winter. This item gives you HP, armor, and enemies that damage the wearer gets their attack speed slowed by 50%. Getting slowed 5 times, the attacker is frozen instead. This item is really strong on solo frontline tanks like Sejuani, Aatrox, and Cho'Gath. And you can also think of it as an adept synergy and occasional stun for as long as your tank lives. In general, if you have multiple tanks in the front, you want to position your Eternal Winter such as the unit gets hit immediately by the enemy carry. This will slow down the enemy's carry's first cast and reduce their DPS significantly. The next item is Infinity Force, which gives you a ton of every single stat besides mana and dodge. It's best on carry units that can use every stat super well, such as Xayah, Kindred, and Samira. For these units, they can all use the tank stats, and they can all use the AD, AP, and crit all super well. It's not as good on tanks because it gives you very low HP and no dodge. The next item is Anima Visage. It gives you HP, dodge, and MR, and the wearer regenerates 8% of their max health per second. It's really strong with fully stacked tanks such as Sejuani, Annie, and Shyvana. And try not to let the unit get bursted down, because Anima Visage can actually heal a lot given enough time. Multiple frontline units to split the damage if you need to let your Anima Visage user live a little bit longer. So yeah, in conclusion, Ornn is a very interesting and unique champion, and if used properly, his items can really turn the tides of battle.